Are you good at detecting deception? People generally perceive themselves as good detectors of deception. However, research has found that people only accurately detect deception at levels a little higher than mere random chance. Given that deception is so widely spread and common, it is estimated that we actually only detect about half the lies that we're told. What this means is that we all operate on false information without even being aware of it. It's believed that deceptive nonverbal behaviors result from nonverbal leakage. Nonverbal leakage refers to the nonverbal behaviors that occur as we try to control the cognitive and physical changes that happen during the states of cognitive and physical arousal. Anxiety is a form of physical arousal that happens during deception. Anxiety leads to bodily reactions, like the kind that we experience when we perceive danger or when we become excited. Polygraph machines or lie detectors work on the principle that the presence of signs of arousal is a reliable indicator of deception, especially in situations where other indicators of deception are absent. Nonverbal leakage also occurs because of the increased cognitive demands associated with deception. Our cognitive activity increases when we have to decide whether or not to engage in deception. In short, lying isn't easy, and it requires us to go against social norms and deviate from our comfortable and familiar communication scripts that we rely on for so much of our interactions. Of course, skilled and experienced deceivers develop new scripts that can also become familiar and comfortable and allow them to engage in deception without arousing as much anxiety or triggering the physical reactions related to it. Now that we have understood some common ideas on detecting deception, what are some forces that might be working against our deception detecting abilities? One such force is the truth bias. The truth bias argues that we tend to believe that a person is telling the truth, especially if we know and like that person. On the reverse, people who have interpersonal trust issues and people in occupations like law enforcement may also have lie biases, meaning they assume people are lying to them more often than not. Second, there are some common misconceptions about the types of behaviors that signal deception. Behaviors mistakenly linked to deception include longer response times, slower speech rates, decreased eye contact, increased body movements, excessive swallowing, and less smiling. Research has shown that none of these behaviors can consistently be associated with deception. Third, people tend to give more weight to nonverbal cues when evaluating the truthfulness of a person than they do to verbal cues. This predisposition can lead us to overlook the verbal signals of deception. In fact, a large study found that people were better able to detect deception by sound alone than they were when exposed to both auditory and visual cues. Therefore, aside from nonverbal cues, the trick is to also listen for inconsistencies in or contradictions between statements, as these can also be used to tell when someone is being deceptive. Given all these forces working against our deception detection ability, it is possible to train ourselves to become more competent at detecting deception. Research on deception and nonverbal communication indicates that heightened arousal and increased cognitive demands contribute to the presence of nonverbal behaviors that can be associated with deception. In fact, when people are falsely accused of deception, the signs that they exhibit as a result of the stress of being falsely accused are very similar to the signals exhibited by people who are actually engaging in deception. And so the authors of the course textbook are of the opinion that at the end of the day, there is no one set profile of deceptive behaviors that you can use to create your own non-verbally based lie detector.